From administration?
No, your worship.
Okay, and from council under the committee of the whole, I would like to add the line about the CAO 360 performance evaluation under FOIP 19, just an update on where we're sitting right now. Anything else from administration or council? Not seeing any. Can I get a motion to accept the agenda? Councillor Prestige?
I'll move that council adopts the agenda as amended.
Thank you. A motion on the floor. Just checking there. So everybody knows we do have Councillor Kukin online. Peter, just making sure you can hear us.
Yeah, I can hear you if you can hear me.
Okay, perfect. We can hear you there. Call the question. All in favor?
In favor.
That one's carried. Move down to 3.1, adoption of the minutes. We have two different minutes here. Council meeting will start with March 27th, 2024. Any errors, omissions, additions, anybody seeing? Not seeing any. If I get a motion from somebody. Councilor Burrows?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the minutes for 27 March 2024 as presented.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any discussion on that? Not seeing any. I'll call the question. All in favor? Councilor
In favor.
Okay, that one's carried. And the
Yeah, I'm in
special
favor.
council. Wait, there we go. And the special council meeting of April 4th.
I'll also make the motion if you like to adopt the minutes for the special council meeting 4th April 2024.
Okay,
As
motion
presented.
on the floor for the minutes of April 4th special council meeting. Call the question. All in favor? See your hand up there, Peter.
In favor.
Perfect, thank you. And just checking, who else do we have online there? Oh, it's Vicky? Okay. Hi, Vicky. Let's get down to 5.1 Bylaw 611-24, Woodlands County Municipal Development Plan. Joe.
Good evening, Reeve and Council. So we have in front of us Bylaw 611-24, which is the Woodlands County Municipal Development Plan. Council gave first reading in January of 2024, and then we went through a rather robust engagement process for stakeholders, the public, and council, which has been listed as to the events and that took place. Several open houses, governance and priorities meeting, and then as well as the public hearing process as well, which we had to follow the MGA when it comes to public hearings as to how they're held and advertised. Council, per the Municipal Government Act, must adopt a municipal development plan by bylaw. Council at the public hearings did hear several comments and reviewed those. Administration noted amendments to the document after those public hearings, as well as comment that had been received back from the various agencies that we had forwarded it to for review. So attached is Bylaw 611-24 for Council's consideration of second reading. We're going to hold off for third reading, and Council has presentation on Wednesday with HM Aero with respect to the Airport Vicinity Protection Report, Airport Development Guidelines, which shouldn't impact the MDP, but just in the event that something comes up through those discussions, we'd like the opportunity to be able to perhaps amend anything before we give final reading. So the document will be brought forward in the last meeting in April for third and final. And yeah, so just looking for Council's consideration on the second reading of the document, or any discussion on it.
Councilor Dean?
If there's no discussion, I'd move that council give second reading to bylaw 611-24, Woodlands County Municipal Development Plan.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Burrows?
Just speaking to the motion, I've said this before, I still don't think we're there on having the discussions at the council level. I know when we look through this, we've got some flood considerations. We keep talking about some of the flood considerations. I haven't had an opportunity to do my report on the risk probe seminar, but they're talking about development on floodplain lands and some of these things as well. Again, I think this limits us. I don't think we've had the time to go through it. I'll be voting against this.
Any other discussion on the motion? Not seeing any, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Kuchen?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with John on this one. I'm opposed at this point.
Okay, it's got majority though, it's carried. 5.2, you voted in favor. 612-24, procedural bylaw. Good evening, Corinne.
Hi, Council. So if you just give me a minute to get my ducks in a row. At the last council meeting, we had discussed some amendments related to Section 90 on seizing, recording, and broadcasting. So an amendment was made to ensure that that section, so Section 90.3, was a non-debatable motion. And then as also requested was to include within Part 5 motions, to include a section regarding motion to seize recording. That is included in Section 185. Those were the amendments requested by council. If there is nothing further, administration is looking for second and third reading.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion on this from council? Councillor Williams?
I'll make a motion that council gives second reading to bylaw 612-24, procedural bylaw.
Thank you very much. Motion on the floor. Any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any, I'll call the question. All in favor? Councillor
In
Wilson?
favor.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm in favor.
Somebody want to give third reading? Councillor Prestige?
I'll make a motion that council give third reading of bylaw 612-24. Procedural bylaw.
Thank you, Councillor Prestige. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor?
In favor.
And that's carried. Thank you.
Excellent. So I just will note, council, that now that we have a new procedural bylaw, what I'm going to do is take this bylaw and make it into a nice handy guide for everyone, just for ease of reference. Also create a table of contents, again, for ease of reference. So once that has been created following this adoption, I'll get that circulated to all members of council as well as our members at large.
Thank you. Just making sure it'll also be for ease of people or the public should be able to find it on the website.
It's, yeah, all of our bylaws and policies are posted on the website.
Just making sure it's easy for them. Thank you.
Excellent.
5.3, Mr. Worrell.
Your worship, members of council, this RFD is regarding the annual ATB boring bylaw. It's a requirement in our boring agreements that we have this bylaw annually. I had brought the bylaw to council in November. I was hoping that was going to be sufficient for the Treasury branch, but they indicated that they needed one. That was for last year. So I'm bringing forward the bylaw for council's consideration. Since it's being opened up, I'm recommending that we lower the line of credit. We really have no need for a $10 million operating line. Even a $1 million operating line is more than we'll probably ever need. The plan is not to use it at all. That's our plan. We don't have any reason to use it. Having said that, there has been situations in the past where somebody did not transfer the money between accounts, and we went into overdraft, and they've taken money out of our operating line to cover the costs. That has not happened since August of 2023. So we're watching the bank very closely now to make sure it doesn't happen. So that's why I'm suggesting that 1 million would be more than sufficient for our boring requirements. And that would include our credit card. Our credit cards are in that 1 million.
Councillor Dean.
Through the chair to Andrew, what's the difference in borrowing cost having a 1 million versus a $10 million line?
So through the chair to Councillor Dean. So the Treasury branch actually only charges us when we use the line.
Okay.
So actually there is no actual cost. for giving us a higher letter of credit, or line of credit. Having said that, I've talked to some other banks, and they say if you don't use your line of credit, they're gonna take it away from you if you're not using it, or they're gonna charge you for it. The Treasury branch did not ever say that, but I know other banks would not let you sit on a $10 million line of credit if you weren't using it without having some cost implication.
Sure.
Councilor Prestige?
To your chair, to Andrew. If something did arise and we needed more money, we just have to come back to council and,
Through the chair to Councillor Prestige. So, given our current cash situation, we can't foresee any situation in the near future where we need money.
Councilor Rose?
So if I get the history on this right, and I can't remember the dates, but when, roughly when I came on around in 18 or 19, I think we had somewhere between a $1 and a $3 million borrowing bylaw, and then we found out the cupboard was bare, as it were. So we bumped this up to a $10 million borrowing bylaw so that we could literally run for the first 6 months of the year without basically running on that line of credit. And we don't need to do that now because we have our own kind of carry forward operating reserve that's been part of that 5-year financial recovery plan. Is that correct?
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Burrows. Essentially, we're sitting right now, currently today, we have about $20 million in savings. And we expect by the time we hit the tax timetable, we will not be going down any lower because currently we have 3 very large ratepayers that joined our monthly payment plan. We're seeing cash come in every month. So we're very comfortable that we would have no need to ever draw down on the line unless for certain circumstances where we had our bank was short on funds by an error or somebody being sick. We will have sufficient funds, I would say, go forward with next, many, many years from a cash flow perspective. We are in very good shape right now relative to what we were when we went to a $10 million line of credit. It was needed.
Right.
Thank you. Anybody? Councilor Dion?
I'd be prepared to move that council gives first reading to bylaw 613-24.
Okay, thank you. Motion on the floor. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor?
In favor.
Thank you, Peter. Moving down, Councilor Prestige.
make a motion that council gives second reading to bylaw 613-24.
Motion on the floor. Call the question. All in favor?
Yeah, in favor.
That one's carried. We can proceed to third and final. Councilor Williams.
Make a motion the council proceeds to third and final reading of bylaw 613-24.
Okay, and this needs to be unanimous to move forward, just so everybody's aware. Call the question. All in favor?
In favor.
Thank you. Councilor Burrows.
I'll move that council give third reading of bylaw 613-24.
And with that, call the question. All in favor? Councilor Coolgan. Councilor Coolgan.
Yeah, I'm in favor.
Okay, sorry, didn't hear you there. Thank you very much. So that's carried. 7.1, 2023 Community Aggregate Payment Levy.
Yes, Your Worship, members of council, at the March 13th council meeting, I presented a summary of our levy for 2023, and there was some questions from council, and they directed us to consult with some of the members that actually submitted levies to us. So I sent out 14 requests. I did it by email. I had everybody's email addresses, and I received 7 responses back. And I provided kind of a summary of the responses on my Schedule A attached. Of those 7 responses, 79% of the levies were covered, or the tonnage was covered by those 7 vendors. One of the vendors happened to be sit on the board of directors for the Alberta Sand and Gravel Association, and he sent me a fairly detailed email. And so I thought I'd provide some of that information for council here because I thought it was very relevant. One other thing to point out is we've we've sent out 41, we've had 37 responses out of 41 gravel sites in the county. 18 had gravel used, 19 did not take any gravel out, and we have 4 outstanding that we're still waiting for follow-up. That's not too bad from in terms of about 10% of gravel sites. I call them, I guess they're pits or stockpiles, have reported to us. So I think it's important to note that a large amount of the gravel came through the county on rail cars and went outside of the county. And one of the largest vendors indicated that they paid on all their gravel, regardless of whether they used it for provincial projects afterwards. And I believe that's all the information that council asked me to follow up with, but I'm certainly willing to answer some questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dean.
Through the chair to Andrew, can you just clarify for me section 3, the Alberta Transportation Tender Projects, what exactly that's saying?
So section 3, what part is that on here, Councillor Dean?
It's in the RFD, it's in the background. And I'll read it to you, I don't know if you can find it. So what it's saying is that exemptions are applied from the source pit, municipality, and not the destination of the aggregate's final landing, even if it happens to leave the boundaries. And in brackets, would declare both county and Alberta transportation royalty exemptions if the pit is crown land within Woodlands County. So what I've understood in discussions with council is that if gravel leaves our county and is destined for an Alberta transportation project, that project is royalty exempt, and we wouldn't receive royalty for the tonnage leaving the county if it was destined for an AT project. Is that what that's saying?
So through the chair to Councillor Dean, I read it a little bit differently. So as far as I know, if it was going to an Alberta transportation project, we would have to get some documentation to support that. They would have to give us the paperwork to show that gravel was leaving the county and going to an Alberta transportation project. I don't believe any gravel, as far as what's reported to us, left the county. I think all the gravel that was used for exempt projects was used in the county. That's my understanding when I talked to the individuals. They weren't shipping out. We have no paperwork to support an exempt project outside the county.
Okay.
Any other discussion from council? Checking Councillor Coopin, see if there's anything you want to chime in on.
No, I read through it. I understand how they do that. So thank you very much, Andrew.
Councillor Dean.
Move that council accepts the 2023 aggregate follow-up report as information.
Okay, thank you very much for that. With that, any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any, I'll call the question. All in favor?
In favor.
And that one's carried. 7.2, Accurate Assessment Group, additional assessment information.
Your Worship, members of council, at the March 15th meeting, we had Accurate Assessment attend the meeting and provide council with presentation. One area that was lacking because they didn't have the information in their presentation was around the some of the industrial issues that we have in the county in terms of industrial assessment. So council asked Accurate Assessment to provide some more details. And Sean Barrett of Aggregate Assessment sent me an email fairly quickly after that request and provided some of the information that council was asking for. I added to the RFD just a little bit of additional information around tax impacts because they are talking about assessment, 2023 assessment for 2024, and it didn't really give you an idea of what the tax impacts are to the county. And so you can see that the 2024 estimate is a considerable amount of funds that we will not be collecting because of the tax holiday.
definitely nice to see the numbers in front of us. We always talk about it, but having the numbers here, yeah, it's a lot of money that we're really missing on the assessment there. Any other discussion from council? Council Burrows?
Do we know for sure that this tax holiday is over? And, I mean, we went to convention and one of the presenters was very, very,
Adamant that it's,
yeah, he was rather animated about how to count. And, you know, he said 21, 22, 23. By my count, it's 24, and we're still on this holiday. So, is there anything from GOA on exactly when this is ending? Like, are they absolutely certain this is the last year for it?
Through the chair to Councillor Burrows, I haven't really heard anything, to be honest with you. My understanding is that based on the current situation, that program ends. We should, their fiscal year is over now at the province, so they should be looking at, if they were gonna look at extending it, you would have thought they would have probably already done that, just given that their fiscal year has already started for the next year, but I haven't heard any information about it.
Council Burrows?
No, I was just going to move it for information at this point, but unless there's further discussion, I'll make a motion that council accepts the documents provided by Aggregate Assessment Group as information. And thank you to both Aggregate Assessment and Mr. World for putting this together for us.
With that, any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any, I'll call the question. All in favor?
In favor.
Thank you. That one's carried. Brings us down to 8.1, request for a tax exempt status for the Fort Assiniboine Legion.
Thank you, Chair and members of council. You have another RFD in front of you regarding a request from the Fort Assiniboine Legion number 210 to have a full tax exempt status. They also asked for any other legions in the county, and I understand we don't have any other ones, but they were trying to broaden it out as, I guess, in terms of what their request was. The letter is dated September 18th, so it seems like a little late for us bringing it forward, but I did not get the letter till about 2 weeks ago, so that's why it's coming forward now. I reviewed the legislation or the regulations, and I provided you with a fairly large document on tax exemptions in Alberta. It's a fun read for anybody if they want to look at through the whole document. But the key part of the MGA on this, for this request, is around the fact that legions are exempt. They're exempt from taxation for anything that's not based on their liquor area of their facility. There's a requirement under the MGA that if you have a liquor license, you cannot be made exempt for that portion of your facility. Kind of makes partial sense just given the fact that you could compete with a neighbor that's 2 blocks down that has a licensed facility and they pay taxes, right? So that's one of the things why you would expect maybe that would be the case. And I believe that given the circumstances, there's other options for council if they want to look at doing things for community groups like this in the county. Council can cancel any tax they wish to cancel. One of the things you have to keep in mind is there is some considerations. It should be equitable, and obviously it only can apply to taxes that are already imposed, not future taxes. And it only applies to municipal taxes. You can't exempt school taxes, or you can't cancel school taxes. If they were exempt, they would be exempt for all municipal taxes. So at the end of the day, the total impact to the Legion for their municipal portion last year was about $623. And I'm recommending that council not accept this request for tax exempt status for the licensed portion of the Fort Assiniboine Legion or other legions in the county.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Burrows?
Would, through the chair, would council be amenable to adding something like this to the capital policy discussion? I don't, the mechanism they're asking for here is not really available legally. So if we, but whatever we do, we need to do it in a uniform way, whether we decide to say no to everything or yes to something or whatever. And I think the right place to have that discussion might be at the tax policy conversation. Would, if council would be amenable to that, I can make the first motion and then add that as a second motion.
Through the chair to Councillor Burrows, I think the Reeve just talked to me about that, about having a tax committee meeting fairly quickly. So certainly, I think it'd be a good item to have on our agenda.
Councilor Prestige?
Through the chair to Andrew, how do you divide what's taxable and what's not taxable? It's like at the fort, they have the downstairs as the lounge, and upstairs, if they have banquets or whatever, there's alcohol served there.
Through the chair to Councillor Prestige. So, I don't have the specific details. You'd have to talk to Troy on the actual assessment. So they looked at the facility and they went in and assessed based on what they thought was the licensed area. And it's not a very large area of the facility. So I'm not 100% sure. You could, assessments available to look at if we want to go into more details, but.
Question I have for Mr. World. Given the recommendation is not to accept the request for tax exempt status, I'm just kind of curious as to the reasonings why, when we have section 363 of the MGA, kind of places us in that area where we could do it.
So 363 is the section where, so that section, it does say, right, that in 363, that they're exempt from taxation. Section 365 is very clear that it says, and the words they use is despite sections 351 1B and 361 to 364 1. That means ignoring that fact. You cannot, you have to take that into consideration when you are doing this. So when they say despite sections, that's basically saying ignoring sections. And so that means you cannot make them exempt on their liquor portion under that section.
Thank you for the clarification. Councillor, do you have a question, Councillor Williams?
Yeah. So you'd be able to forgive it each year, you just couldn't make it exempt going forward, is what you're saying, I guess.
Through the chair to Councillor Williams. Council has the option to always look at any requests for deferral or cancellation of taxes. They weren't asking for that in their request. They were asking for exempt status. That would have to be another request that they would make where they think they should get their taxes canceled by council.
Councillor Burrows?
If we're done and council's amenable, I was going to make those two motions.
I think we're at the end there.
Okay, so my first motion would be that council does not accept the request for tax exempt status for the license portion of the Fort Assiniboine or other legions in the county.
Okay, with that motion on the floor, any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any, I'll call the question. All in favor?
In favor.
Okay, sounds carried.
So my second motion would be that we forward this request in the form of so that it's something we look at the tax policy advisory committee.
While we're at this point, do we want to set a date for that?
No problem here, yep. One member's not online though.
No, he's, I'm not sure when Councillor Williams back. We can set a date and then we have to change it. This way we at least have something on the board instead of trying to chase schedules all the time.
Reeve,
Oh, we still gotta deal with the
administration could
board.
support doodle poll
Okay,
to help all the counselors and member of administration to get that set up for you.
okay, if administration would take care of that, then we'll,
Happy to. Do we want to start at a certain timeline out, a week from now, and then look at dates?
Councillor Rose?
at least a week from now.
So 2 weeks?
Sure.
We'll start in 2 weeks.
Got it, thank you.
Okay, so, motion on the floor to forward this item to the, tax committee and policies. Any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any, I'll call the question, all in favor?
In favor.
Okay, and that's carried, thank you. 8.2, Regional Airport Working Group Letter. If you like, Mr. Bouchon, I can run through this one here quick. This has come before council at RMA. This is part of a subcommittee kind of working group with Minister Shane Getson that Councillor Burrows has been invited to a couple of meetings, and I've been on the email string of information coming back and forth too. What they're looking at is the regional airports and the impact they have as far as economic and development, trade, forest fighting, AHS, but trying to develop more support from the province when it comes to funding on those airports. So there is a letter that's attached here. It's in draft form. I believe there was another amendment done since to add our discussion at RMA within the group around extra support for forest fighters and looking at our forest fire fighting and how that impacts the airports in the region as well. And this goes hand in hand with a lot of discussions that we also had with Minister Dreeshen around funding our airports, and with another kind of working committee with I think it was the Airport Advisory or Provincial Airport Advisory, I can't remember, at the EDA who I was talking with.
Yeah.
They're also looking at something similar, so we're trying to connect all the dots. So what they are looking for is a letter of support from our municipality, supporting their efforts in working with the province to try to find more ways to allocate funding and support for the airports. Any discussion on that? Councillor Dean?
No discussion, I just move that council approve the draft letter of support to be sent to Devin Dreeshen, Minister of Transportation and Economic Corridors.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any, I'll call the question, all in favor?
In favor.
Okay, moving along. Nothing in number 9. Number 10, councillor reports and questions. Councillor Coulton, you want to start us off today?
Yeah, what I'll do is I will reserve my report till the next meeting because I'm on the road right now and I don't have access to all my notes, so.
No, fair enough.
Thank
Move
on to Councillor Dean.
With the cancellation of the October or April 10th meeting, I had just 2 engagements. April 4th, we had our special council meeting that all the council attended, and from April 9th to 12th, I attended the EDA along with members of our Economic Development Committee, and that always proves to be a very worthwhile event, both from a learning perspective and a networking perspective, and it was again.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Councillor Dean? Not seeing any. Move across the table there. Councillor Williams.
I was about 2 minutes late for that special council meeting, and it was over, so that one was pretty quick, but that's some issues getting online, so missed that one. But also had an Ag Society meeting in Port Assiniboine. They're gearing up for lots of plans there for the summer. Already out trying to get some sponsorship for the hoedown, and planning that's on its way. And then I was invited to a meeting in Port Assiniboine at the library about some busing issues some parents are having. They used to offer a transfer bus for a fee from Port Assiniboine to Barhead, and then some provincial changes were made that they didn't charge for it anymore. So the school board made a decision, all the trustees, to not offer that service anymore, to try not to close down outlying schools. And there's a group of parents that are looking to send their kids to Barhead and are finding that that's not able to happen. So they had a meeting with the superintendent and the school board trustee, and it sounds like they're going to go to a meeting. So that was kind of an interesting meeting to be a part of. But yeah, that's what I've been up to.
Okay, thank you very much. Any discussion for Councillor Williams? Council Prestige.
Well, it's been fairly slow for me. We had our special council meeting on the 4th, and then on the following Monday, we had our Blue Ridge Community League meeting, just going over what's gonna happen in the summer, that kind of thing, so.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Councilor Prestige? Seeing none, Councilor Burrows.
Yeah, the special council meeting, and then also I got to go attend Risk Pro for the first time. So, as you guys are aware, the municipal insurance is pretty much done through the Rural Municipal Association, Army Insurance, and Genesis is an underwriter. Genesis Reinsurance. And then there is this component that you get to go on basically talks about some of the things that are coming down the pipe in risk, and it is unbelievable the amount of cyber that they're getting. We heard stories of false emails asking for, were generated internally in the organization, asking that X amount of dollars, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, be paid to this organization so that they could continue the contract on this job, but they changed a couple of numbers in the banking information, and $250,000 is gone like that. So it's unbelievable how sophisticated and how brazen some of this cyber is getting. I was surprised too. I thought if you had and it was a large city that did it. So I would have thought a comptroller would have caught something like that. But anyway, so I just want to pass on, I guess, that whatever you're thinking about cyber, it's probably already been done. And I don't want to get into more of it than that, but it's definitely a growing risk to municipalities. So we had some good conversation around canoe procurement, and we actually had 2 members of our staff there as well. So that's it for me.
Hey,
Oh, I'm sorry, there is one other thing. Bill 18 is coming up as a topic of discussion with RMA as well. So there's a position put out already by AB Munis. I don't know if council wants to have any kind of discussion on Bill 18, and so that I can take something to RMA, but it is a topic that kind of sprung on us. So.
Councilor Dean?
Just to that end, John, has there been any identification of potential harm to municipality, i.e. you qualify for a federal grant and the province potentially could step in and say that doesn't meet our mandate?
Well, and I think that's the sorry if I can respond, I think that's the fear of the legislation is that. Now I understand where the province is kind of coming from. I mean, they're saying that it should come to the province and the province gets to trickle it out. And at the moment, the way that they're doing that, they're going around it. At the moment, they seem to be the carrots all being thrown at the urbans. So I get the feeling that this won't be as big of a rural municipal issue as it is an urban municipal issue. But there are, my take and my communication that I keep wanting to have is that we're seeing expenses grow on the police funding model. And we haven't seen that just yet, but the RCMP got a 25% 3-year retroactive raise. That's coming. We all know it's coming. So there's going to be an increase in the police model fund. We've seen increases in school requisitions. We've seen increases in multiple requisitions from the province. In the meantime, they're cutting rural access to funding through things like the 3-year tax holiday, the elimination of the well drilling equipment tax, the shallow gas and oil production wells. That's all on the backs of municipalities that are programs that are generated by the province, but the money is on the back of the municipality. So it's kind of no wonder that municipalities are looking for funding. I think we've done a good job in addressing a lot of that in the 5-year plan that we've done, but I don't know where some of the other rules are sitting, and there's lots of hurting out there in Alberta right now. Hopefully I didn't wander too far off, but that's where we're at.
Thank you. Any other discussion for Councilor Burrows? Not seeing any. Okay, I'll move on. Couple of things. First thing I want to start, Mr. Bouchon, I know we had a discussion earlier, but I want to make sure that whichever individuals you had working on that road issue out in my area there, thank them very much for getting that very, very fast. We had issue where a couple trucks kind of made a road fairly impassable in a couple areas, and made the complaint yesterday afternoon through the service tracker, and by 9 o'clock this morning I got a notification that it had already been dealt with and closed. So again, thank you guys very much for getting that very fast. Other than the special council meeting, spent most of last week at the EDA, my first time there. Great conference. I know there was we'll say an online comment that kind of come out around the award that our EDO had put out in regards to the municipality and kind of all the events that went around the bicentennial event. I just want to make sure that individuals know that the awards that were there were presented to municipalities. They weren't essentially for different groups and, you know, your community leagues or stuff like that. It was towards the municipalities. And it was just part of the conference that we hand out. So I don't want any members of the public to feel slighted that there was something that come out where we were nominating for the event and what we did, but it was just part of, you know, a section of the conference and wasn't really we'll say like a community league type of event. So nothing against, again, community members. This was just part of our EDA. But a lot of really good discussion coming out of there, especially around websites and development and communication. One of the first presenters I went and I talked to, or sat in, they were talking about your websites and making sure that your strategic plan and your pillars and everything are very easily findable. Ours, if you go to the search bar, put it in, it comes up, it's nice, it's quick to find. They're showing some examples of some other municipalities where it's very hard to find that stuff, and some of the stuff around planning and stuff is also very difficult in some of these others, and their examples kind of go back and roll into ours, and I think our communications individuals are doing a great job with the layout and what they've been doing with our website. So good job there again, Nikita and Corinne. Lots of discussion around, I guess, farming and the fact that with a lot of the events globally and the restrictions on the farming industry and ag industry and a lot of the alternative farming that's coming out, there's a lot of different presenters talking about, you know, whether it's vertical farming or your, you know, test tube farming, or I'm not exactly sure for better lack of term on it, but you know, just different ways that people are kind of innovating to make that mark, and how Alberta in general, for where we're at and what we can provide, is a great position globally if we can get a lot more of this stuff out to market or find other ways to do more of the processing internally instead of sending everything out to get done. So it's a really good, it was a really good conference. Definitely glad I took part in that. Lots of conversations. Met a gentleman from Phoenix, Arizona was up. He's a Canadian client representative for a marketing company down there, and had a good conversation with him about kind of differences that he sees between the Canadian and the US market. And he said that out of all of his clients, the ones that he enjoys dealing with the most are the Canadians. So good to hear. I do have something though I would like administration, know we had this come through the GMP a little while ago, but given some, I guess, things that we're seeing currently with our current staffing, I would like the remote work policy brought back to a GMP. Just have a couple things that we need to kind of iron out and possibly re-edit on that. So make that, I guess, a notice of motion to bring the remote work policy back to the to an available GMP. Any discussion on that one? Not seeing any, call the question, all in favor? Councillor Cogan?
Yes, in favor.
Okay, thank you. And with that, that's, I guess the only other thing I've been working on the EOEP, the Municipal Corporate Planning course. Been doing it remotely over the last couple weeks, so hopefully get that one done. There's a lot of good information comes out of that course too, so. Any questions, comments? Not seeing any, can I get a motion to move council reports? Councilor Gross?
I'll make a motion to move council reports.
Thank you very much. Motion on the floor, call the question, all in favor?
In favor.
Thank you. Brings us down to Mr. Vachon, CAO report.
Your worship, members of council, our new Planning Community Services Admin Assistant started today. An employment offer was made for the new infrastructure director. It was accepted. Your new director of infrastructure will be starting April 29th, Mr. Jeff Zhang. And administration is working on preparing the municipal census. It will be rolling out roughly May 6th to July 31st. And that's it.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Vachon? Not seeing any, can I get a motion to move the CAO report? Councilor Williams.
Make a motion, the council accepts the CAO report as information.
Thank you very much. Motion on the floor, call the question, all in favor?
In favor.
Thank you, Peter. With that brings us down to committee of the whole. If I can get a motion to move into committee of the whole. Councilor Prestige,
Make a motion to move into committee of the whole,
under FOIP 19.
Folks 19.
Any discussion on that? Not seeing any, I'll call the question, all in favor?
In favor.
Perfect, thank you. It's 5:48. We'll go into committee of the whole